So in the last classes now we have talked about all the architectures, right? For object detection, everything is done there. So today what we will be talking about is basically how we can do TensorFlow object detection. So TensorFlow itself has an object detection that we can use, and we will understand how we will do the TensorFlow object detection. First we will start with the basic MS Coco dataset, and then in the next class we will do a custom dataset, alright? But let us start with the MS Coco dataset. Now I have to say you that this is not the basic normal object detection like we have talked about. You cannot do this just using a single Jupyter library, okay? So in this thing what happens is they actually TensorFlow has a whole repository in itself, and in that repo what happens is they have given us all the scripts or all the required things that are required to do the object detection part. We will go and understand, you'll see, but yeah, it is not basically going to be one step or you are going to be provided with a notebook and you can follow everything there. No, there are actually going to be steps, and these steps are going to be very different. They are not the ones that you can get from the Jupyter notebook, okay? So follow me properly here because this is going to be a bit tricky. So how do we start? We start with first here. So this here is a very good link. Here everything is written in proper details very well. You will be provided with these links obviously, but yeah, so what I'll do is I'll follow the steps here. Now I can do it on my own, but it is always easier to have the whole thing here written itself, alright? I'll say why, you'll understand, because there are a lot of steps. It is not a single step task, so hence you need to have all the steps written. So let us start with first downloading the repository here. So like you can see, TensorFlow has all these here, all these folders and files, and here basically you have all the models and everything that will be required, alright? So this is for TensorFlow 1. We will be talking about TensorFlow 1. So in this main thing, the important part is this research folder. In the research folder you can see they have been working on a lot of things. Cognitive planning, you can see here, deep contextual bandits, then deep search. There are a lot of things that they are doing here, right? But what we are interested in is here, your object detection, right? This is what we are interested in. So first let us start and let us first download this repo here, okay? So you can start for downloading here. Now I am not going to download. The reason why is because I have already downloaded it, okay? I have already downloaded it and it is there in my system, but the thing is it requires some time to download, hence I already downloaded it and kept it. So I would request you people to download this from here, okay? So this is where you will start with downloading the models. The next is downloading the data set. First let us go into this other link here. So for object detection, now you know that there are a lot of object detection, right? So we can start from RCNN family, then you have SSD, and even then in spite of all this you also have the base structure that is used for classification, right? The base structure, so that base structure can also be changed on its own. So the whole point here is that there are a lot of data sets and there are a lot of architectures that can be used. Hence this is a model zoo. In the model zoo they have provided all the trained data sets. So you can see here there are a lot of data sets. So the main convention here basically is the first part, the first half before the underscore, this represents your detection architecture. The second one, this here, this represents what type of model you are using, the base architecture what you are using for classification, and finally the last one is your data set, or so what data set is this trained on. So here you have SSD, MobileNet, V1, Coco. So V1 is basically version 1. Then in the same way, if you look here, see here you have faster RCNN, which is trained on Inception version 2, and this is on the Coco dataset. So this is basically the whole architecture here, alright? And what we will be doing is we will be using on these datasets, we will use the Coco model trained datasets because we have been talking about Coco for a long time, so we will be training on that. And along with these models they have also provided the speed and the Coco MAP. The speed basically means how much time it takes to train this to test on this model, alright? So if the model is very large in size, so in that case the speed will be more, but we need less and less speed so that it can do more fast and accurately. And then you have the MAP score. Obviously you know what the MAP score is. And then finally the output. So the outputs will be in boxes. That means these all these here, these are basically object detection, but in the end if you will see, they are also in masks. So mask basically is the segmentation. We will come about that later on, but for now we are doing just the object detection. So let us just keep it to the boxes here. So here you have the entire zoo. Okay, so what I have done is, to make you understand about this, I have downloaded this SSD MobileNet V1 Coco. Okay, you can select here and you can download the whole thing. So I am not going to download because again I have already downloaded it. So you have the link here. This is the link to download the SSD MobileNet V1 Coco. And if you want to download some other model, you can go in this TensorFlow 1 detection model zoo. Alright, then this link is here to provide the dataset, to download the dataset. We are not going to use that for now. And this is the label IMG. Again, we are going to talk about this later on, but yeah, not for now. Okay, for now just download the version 1 and you have download the MobileNet. Alright, now once you have downloaded it, here this is how this will look like. Let us just ignore this and this for now. Alright, let us just look into this and this here for now. Alright, so what we will do is, let me first rename this. Okay, so just for easier convention, let me just call this as models. So inside models, the thing I am interested in is research. So you can delete the others if you want to, but I am not going to do that anyhow. So they are not going to make any changes, so I'm just keeping it anyway. So here you have research. So the first thing now that you have to do is, basically you have to create a virtual environment. So what that means is, you have to create this conda create. Yeah, you have to write this statement if you remember, the conda create -n and the name of the repo. So here you can see, this is your command to create your virtual environment, conda create -n, then the name of your environment. You can keep it TFOD here, and you can give your Python version. I have used Python 3.6. Here it is given Python 3.7. 3.6 is a more stabler version. Alright, and if you want to keep the latest Python version, in that case you do not specify this Python here, but I would say you write this. Alright, so let's see here. So yeah, let's go with this one for now. Okay, so see, the first thing here is, this is the link where you can download your models. Sorry, not models, yeah, this whole repository. Okay, so this is where you can download your repository. This is where you can download your data set or your model zoo. So that also you have the link here. You can click here and download. It's the same thing. Then this here, now we'll start with this. So you have to create your environment, and this is how you are going to create your environment. I am not creating the environment because I have already done that. So what I will do is, once you create your environment, it takes time to create environment. That is why I already created it. You will activate your environment. So everyone knows about Anaconda, I suppose. So we are doing everything here using Anaconda. So you have to do conda activate TFOD. So now here, instead of base, you have TFOD. That means your environment has been activated. So you can create an environment using conda. You can create an environment using virtual env also. Python virtual env is there. Then the next thing is, you are going to install some dependencies that will be required for your model here. Okay. So you can see here, I am installing all these dependencies that are required, and here the initial TensorFlow version has been removed and the other version is being added. So whatever, the whole point here is, basically now you install all the dependencies that are required, because you are creating a new environment to solve this object detection. I would suggest to always create a new environment and do not stay in for the base, because you might have some structures in the base and you might want that not to be changed. hence always create a new environment. So let's again start. So you have to download a few things, right? First you download the whole repo. So this is basically the whole repo, this I have downloaded, and then download this here. So this is basically your detection model. So you downloaded these two, then what you are going to do is create your environment and activate your environment. Once that is done, you are going to here this one, you are going to basically do what, you're going to install some dependencies. Once that is done, let us talk about something. So when you go inside models and research, so basically your research is your parent directory. So that means all the tasks that we will be doing on research. So make sure that you remember that. The reason why is, whenever you are going to make changes, whenever you are going to add something or remove something, it has to be done from research. So whenever you are adding let's say a file structure and architecture and where it is present, always remember that you are from the research folder. So now that all the dependencies have been installed, the next thing that I am going to do is basically move into my research folder. Now you can see I am inside my research folder. So now that this has been done, the dependencies have been installed, right? So what we are going to do next is basically we are going to run this setup.py. So what setup.py here, this one. So what setup.py basically does is it helps you to set up the entire environment for object detection. So whatever is required, addition, subtraction, downloading some in libraries and everything, that is all done using setup.py. So whenever you have to run object detection, right, you have to run this setup.py. So the main thing here is Python setup.py install. So what it does is basically it installs whatever is required. You can see here everything that is required is being installed one by one, right? See, once that is done, we are going to do something else. We'll talk about that. But see, now all the process has been done and all the dependencies that were required for object detection 0.1 has been finished. So whatever was required to download, to add, to subtract, whatever the whole thing, it has been finished. So now basically what that means is now my entire environment is ready for object detection. The next thing that we are going to do is, see, you have, let us go inside this object detection file. Now there are going to be a lot of files, right? So do not go and understand everything. You do not require everything, and it's useless to actually understand everything. Just understand what are required and go with that, because there is a lot of things and there is not just object detection. They are working on many other things, right? So you don't have to go through everything is what I mean to say. So you have the object detection here, right? So what we are going to do is basically we are going to go into this Protos file. So these are different files. Now here is the thing. Okay, it is difficult to run everything in Python because Python is a slow language. Hence you always have proto. So all these files have been converted into proto. So proto makes it run everything easier and faster. Hence we have all these converted into proto. But for our library to run, we have to convert this proto back into Python file. So you have to convert all of these proto files into Python files. So we are going to do that using this protobuf file. Okay, so this protobuf you have to download. This is basically a dependency. You can download it using conda, using this command. All right, so conda install -c anaconda protobuf. So protobuf, what it basically does is it converts your proto files into Python files. Okay, so now everything is being downloaded for me, and you will also take this time to download and everything. So here there are basically a lot of things. So input reader proto, basically what it does is when you are giving your input, it reads using this input reader. All right, so whatever your data set is, the data set, that means the images, and along with that the box, the surrounding boxes, the labels and everything, that is done using input reader. So image resizer basically is used to resize the image. So there are a lot of things, and all of these are required basically for your object detection. All right, so all the requests are installed, so I have protobuf installed. Once I have protobuf installed, what I will do is basically convert all these proto files into the readable Python files. So this is your statement to do that. So if you see Linux or Mac and Windows, the statement is the same. All right, so I am using a Linux environment, but you can use Windows. Here it is given for both Linux and Windows. You will be provided with a link to this also. All right. So here let us understand this statement one by one. So conda install, what it basically did is it installed the protobuf. Here what protoc is the basically the part of protobuf that helps in conversion. So protoc, now since you are in your research folder, right? So you are in the research folder. If you understand the architecture, what happened, you are here in your research folder, right? All your proto files are in this protos folder. So what you are going to do is basically protoc object detection slash protos. Okay, so now you are inside this folder. In this folder you are doing star.proto. Star basically means all proto files. So this basically structure means all files that have the extension proto. And now once you have written, okay, these are my files, and then you have to convert it my hyphen python out, so your output will be in Python. So what basically happened is you gave the direction to your proto files and you used protoc command to convert these proto files into Python. So this was basically the whole thing. So here you can see for every proto file now I have a Python file, right? Now since we have converted it into proto, and because this is only what we are using is basically only for not custom but basic object detection. All right, so if we will be using a custom object detection, then there will be a lot of other steps. But now since that we are only using this object detection thing here, we are using the model that has already been trained. Okay, we are not fine tuning the model or anything. We are using the model that has already been trained. So what we can do basically is we can just go in here and open the object detection tutorial. But before that, let's do this, because you enter the object detection and here you have a very nice Python notebook for tutorial. So this says basically how to do object detection. Now the object detection that will be done here will be on the MS Coco dataset. All right, so this basically detection is on MS Coco dataset. For more custom detection datasets we will understand that, but right now we are doing only the MS Coco dataset. So let us copy this file and put it in our research folder. The reason why is, the reason is all our this is our main parent directory. All the tasks that we are doing is from this directory itself, right? So hence we have to put this here in the research folder. Now let us open a Jupyter notebook. Do you understand that everything that we are doing, everything is basically from this research folder? This is our parent directory folder. So we have to put this object detection tutorial also, which was inside object detection, into here research folder. Now let us open this IPython notebook. You will understand one by one everything. There are a lot of steps here, but yeah, bear with me, you will understand. This is basically more of a practice thing. You have to do it, only then you can remember everything. So let us run one by one. So since this is running the first time, I am getting a few errors, but that's alright. They are not errors, basically they are warnings. Now here basically if you run this, you will see no module named utils. So you can have all these problems. Let us understand why this problem is happening. Let us search where utils is basically. So utils is basically in object detection, like you can see here. We also have utils in deep lab and everything, but we are not we do not have to concern ourselves with that, because we are doing object detection. So our utils folder is in object detection folder, but our file, this Jupyter notebook, now is in the research folder. So you have to what basically do is you have to add object detection in front of it. Did not understand? Okay, let me Do it, then you'll understand. It cannot find the module utils. The reason why is because this module utils is not in your research directory. You do not have any utils here. Like we saw, utils was in object detection. So hence you have to add this object detection thing here. Also here. See, now it ran. Now here what we will be doing is, the main whole point of this is, right, if you have everything, you have to convert it into whenever you're training anything, right? So you save models using H5, but in TensorFlow 1, TensorFlow object detection, all the models are saved in .pb format. .pb format is basically the frozen graph. So all the models are saved in this format, and whenever you have to do anything, you have to use this format for TFOD. Alright. So now here what I have done is, you give your model name. So model name is SSD MobileNet V1 Coco, alright, and then you have your model file. So model file is basically this. So what this basically step is doing here is, it is going into this zoo here, and in this zoo it is downloading this here. If you look here downwards, it shows download.tensorflow.org model slash object detection slash SSD. So this is basically the file where you can download it. Okay, so what this whole part here is doing is, you are giving it the model name, your model file, and then it is basically downloading that model. Once it downloads the model, you have to give where the path to frozen file is. If you look into this SSD V1 Coco MobileNet, so here we are basically giving it the download basis and the path and everything. Downloading will happen here. So I have given all the path and everything. Now I will download the thing. So this is not a very big thing. It's more like 30-40 MB size. So it will download. It will not take that much of a time. So what is happening here is, I am downloading the model and then I am extracting it using tar. So tar is basically used to extract the whole thing. And then also we have MS Coco label dataset. But here is one thing that you have to change. See, when you look into this MS Coco dataset, it is inside object detection. So in object detection, you have the data here, and here you have MS Coco label PBT. So this is basically the dataset, or this is basically the file where you have all the items written. So you have item 1. So that is the name, the ID, and then what is the person? It is a person. So this is basically MS Coco label map. So here you have how many? 90 objects. So that means, what it means is basically your model or your data set or the whole thing, basically what it means is, it will be able to detect 90 objects. So we are doing a pre-training thing, and in pre-training of MS Coco, it can detect 90 items. So what are the items it can detect? It can detect toothbrush, it can detect hair dryer, teddy bear, scissors, and so on, right? And all these labels have been given numbers. So ID number 1 is a person, ID number 2 is a bicycle, and so on, right? So you have the whole MS Coco label data set here. So PBTXT is very important when you are doing TensorFlow object detection, alright. So what we will be doing is, basically here we will be changing the path, because we are in the research folder, and this here is inside the data folder, which is in object detection itself. So we will be adding this. Okay. Now it is downloading this. We can stop this because I have already downloaded this here, but let us just see and continue, and let's see how long it takes. Alright, so here the whole thing is being downloaded. We'll understand everything. The main thing to understand here is, whenever you download the dataset, you are going to have a few things. Let us look inside here. So this is my data set. You have a few things. We'll talk about this. So first we have this frozen inference graph.pb. So this is basically the whole model file. When you have .h5 file, that is the model file. In TFOD you have .pb file. PB is basically a frozen inference graph, and this is where you can do all your other things. So by all your other things, I mean like loading the model and everything. This is your model here. This is basically your CKPT. CKPT basically means your checkpoints. So this is your model, and when you are training TFOD, right, all your models will be in CKPT format. All right, they will be in this format, and then you have to convert this into your PB graph. Because when, see, the whole thing is basically TFOD is a bit complicated. There is no one step or doing in this manner or that manner. All right, so what happens is, the whole point of this is basically you have a checkpoint here and you have a graph PB. So graph PB is used when you are inferencing. So whenever you are loading the model and you are seeing whether it's working or not in whatever manner, you need this graph PB. But when you are training, your model will be in this CKPT format. So these three together add up to a model CKPT format, and these CKPT formats will be there. Then once you have that, you have to convert it into PB so that you can use it for inference. All right. So now you can see the whole download has been finished. So what did we do till now? All right, we did not do a lot. This was basically presented to us by TensorFlow itself. So we do not have to go into everything in details, but what it basically does is it imports the whole thing. All right, it imports everything. You call a matplotlib inline. This is used to detect your images. Then you are calling two different files, Python files, from object detection itself. So here you are not loading anything, you are calling it. Here this was basically to give your model name and everything, and you are downloading this model and untarring it. Okay, so you have the whole thing. Let us look inside. So you can see you have SSD here and this has been extracted here. So now you have your model. Now what you will do is you will load your frozen model into your memory. So if you remember in TensorFlow, we were talking a lot about this thing, right? We talked about when we were doing, once your model is saved and you have to load it again, you always use this load model, right? So here also what we will be doing is we will be basically loading the model, the graph, the .pb into your TensorFlow memory. Okay, let us run this. So it has been loaded. Now what we will be doing is, okay, I forgot to run this again because we did not added the object detection here, and this is very important because your data set or your data set is basically your ms coco label map.pbtxt is in object detection / data, not data. Okay. What I mean is, let us go back again. So you have object detection here, inside that you have data, and inside that you have ms coco label. So this is basically if you want to run your TensorFlow object detection without actual training, custom training. Okay, so you want to run this on this whole 90 objects. In that case, you will be using this ms coco label map pbtxt. Otherwise, you have to create your own label map pbtxt. We will talk about how this is created. It is not that difficult. So the main point here is basically you have an ID. So number 1 represents a person, number 2 represents a bicycle. In the same way, you have 90 such IDs. Okay, so all these objects will be detected using the pre-trained ms coco dataset. So now we will be loading the label map. So your label map has been loaded. What we will be doing is now we will be loading the image. So if you know, even in matplotlib, when you are loading an image, you have to convert that image into an array first. So here what we are doing is we are converting the image into an array. Once it has been converted into an array, only then you can use matplotlib to load it. Okay, now here basically what we are doing is you have this path. So when you download this whole data set, right, it comes up with a few things. I'll show you. Here you have a folder called test images. So in test images, it already has 2 images that we can use for testing. We can add more images here, our own images here, but for now let us just keep these 2 text images. Then you can add more test images here itself, but let us look into how this looks. Okay, so you have test images, but again we are in the research folder. Test images are in object detection, so we need to add that. As you can see, now I can run this. it loaded the whole thing, it has the path and everything, and all the images are loaded. Now this here basically is very big step. So what this basically does is, it is basically running the whole thing and it is giving you the outputs. So when you get the outputs, you get in what format? You will get number of detections. So it says the number of detections that you are that was there in that particular image. Then detection classes, what classes you detected, detection boxes, the sizes or the areas where the boxes are, that means the coordinates of the boxes. And detection scores, detection scores is basically if you have those if you remember when you were doing this, you had those probabilities, right? So probability that this is this class given an object. So this score, basically this score. And finally, if it is not this score and if there are detection masks in it. So what that means is, if you have detection masks, we do not have detection mask because mask is used for segmentation, we will talk about that, but we do not have it because we are doing localization and object detection. So this basically is used to do that. And here what we will be doing is, once you get all the values, once you have the whole thing, see here you are loading the session, you are setting your default operations and everything, then you are you had this whole here you had this whole file, right, loaded the whole thing. So you will be using that basically to get all the values and outputs here. You don't have to worry about so much code. The reason why is because they have already provided us with everything, right? So we don't have to worry so much about this. Once you have this loaded, now here you can do basic detection. So this takes some time to load the whole thing. So it will basically detect on this image and this image. So here what happened is, see what happened here is basically, sometimes this happens. So we need to run this again, this matplotlib inline. This is used to show the images. If it is not able to show the images, so you have to run this again. Or one thing that we can do is, let's try this one more time. If it still does not run, then I have another option. See, now you got the images, right? So sometimes what happens is, this matplotlib inline, it does not run that. So you need to run this again, this environment setup, to show the images, and then you can run this whole thing again. So you can see here you have marked, here you see it's written dog, it gave the output dog. Here see, it gave all the different outputs. So the whole thing is there. Let me change this. Let's see if this can give a bigger image, alright, because this is a very small image. So this takes a bit of time, that is why it says, see now you have a bigger image, you can see. So here now you can see you have kite here, then you have person here. So it is giving me all these various outputs. So this is if you are doing this on your MS Coco dataset. You do not change the dataset, so you already download a pre-trained model and you run the whole thing. So these are the steps if you want to run the whole thing on MS Coco dataset. So what are the steps? Let me write again. So you start with downloading the repo. Once you have the repo downloaded, what the next thing you will do is basically go into research folder, and in the research folder, okay, no, before that, okay, yeah, you have to create, so create your environment. Once the environment is created, activate the environment. Now you have your environment activated. The next thing you will do is download dependencies that are required for object detection. You have downloaded the dependencies. All the list of dependencies that you require is written here. See, Pillow, LXML, Cython, all these. Okay, so you have to download the dependencies from here. Once your dependencies are downloaded, the next thing you will do is basically go into research folder, and inside the research folder you have to run python setup.py install. Now this installs all the dependencies extras that you are required for object detection. Once that has been done, next thing is you have to download protobuf. So protobuf can be downloaded using this statement here, conda install -c anaconda protobuf. Once you have downloaded that, what you will be doing is convert proto in object detection / proto folder to Python so that you can run it for your system. Once it has been converted into the Python system, now you are set with all your dependencies. In that case, now nothing you have to do. You just have to go here and you have to open the Jupyter notebook, make a bit of changes based on your location. So location changes you have to make, and then just run each and every code. Once all of that has been done, you will be able to do your object detection. Now I know these are a lot of steps, but can you imagine these are the steps if you are doing a already pre-trained data set. If you go for a custom data set, this is going to be even more. We will talk about custom data set, but this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and keep learning.